about a bad check. How the community is responding as the war on police reaches a whole new level. And a line drive foul ball hitting a Dodgers fan in the head. The scary moment, reigniting calls for Major League Baseball to do more to protect the fans. But will they listen? And there's nothing like a mother's voice to calm an infant.
I still believe in you.
The adorable sing-off between Carrie Underwood and her husband that is going viral. Fox and Friends First starts right now. And we do begin with a Fox News alert for you and some breaking news from overnight. Just horrible news out of Missouri. A Missouri police officer killed in the line of duty overnight after just 3 months on the job. Now, this comes as horrifying new body camera footage shows the moments that a Sacramento cop is ambushed. Aisha Husney joins us now live as Officer Tara O'Sullivan's accused killer prepares to face a judge. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. You know, these officers, they were all just trying to do their job, keep us safe, when gunshots rang out. In Sacramento, body cam video shows the horror. Watch.
If you're in here, let me know. You're not in trouble, dude.
Oh, your heart just races when you hear those bullets. Those bullets killed rookie police officer Tara O'Sullivan. The gunfire so extreme, police had to use an armored vehicle to get her out of there. At a vigil, friends broke down as they honored her.
She was the person I needed whenever I felt depressed or down.
And I'm so honored to have known her and called her a best friend for 20 years.
Thank you for raising a true hero.
And she's not alone. O'Sullivan's death is among the latest of now 22 police officers killed in the line of duty this year alone. Mission, Texas police officer Corporal Jose Speedy Espericueta was shot and killed on Thursday trying to help a woman whose son had shot at her car. And North St. Louis County officer Michael Langsdorf, the latest. He died Sunday after he was shot by someone trying to cash a bad check. Our hearts, this is from the St. Louis County PD. They tweeted, "Our hearts are broken for our municipal partners and the death of Officer Langsdorf of the North County Police Cooperative. We share your pain. Hashtag officer down. Hashtag never forgotten." And the man accused of shooting O'Sullivan, by the way, faces a judge later on today. And we are expecting a news conference from police in Missouri with more details surrounding Officer Langsdorf's death. So more to come, Heather.
Yeah, certainly. And our hearts out to everyone who knows him. Thank you so much, Aisha. Appreciate it. Also breaking right now, the bodies of a woman and 3 young children found near the Texas-Mexico border. The Hidalgo County Sheriff says that they were discovered in the Los Palomos Wildlife Management Area that's just north of the Rio Grande. Among the dead, 2 infants and a toddler. And their cause of death is unknown. The FBI will investigate. This is a known area for smugglers, so much more to come on that as well. Well, President Trump says a deal with Democrats on the southern border probably won't happen, tweeting that he wants to, quote, give the Democrats every last chance to quickly negotiate simple changes to asylum and loopholes, but adds it probably won't happen. The president has postponed a series of ICE raids targeting several major cities for 2 weeks while Congress negotiates. And this, of course, comes as the Remain in Mexico program expands to at least 2 additional Mexican border cities. Asylum seekers coming to the U.S. will now be sent back to Nuevo Laredo and San Luis Rio, Colorado, to wait for their claims to be processed. Well, 2 weeks is not much time for Democrats to find a way to work with the president to fix the immigration crisis. Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas ultimately says that the Democrats just want open borders.
Healthy skepticism is warranted for dealing with Democrats when it comes to immigration. Let's just think about the Democrats' position here. These are people who have claimed asylum in our country. They've had their day in court. They've had their claims rejected, and now they face a valid and final order of removal. If we can't deport people like that, who can we deport? That's why the Democrats' position ultimately comes back to, in essence, open borders.
Well, both the House and the Senate are expected to vote this week on separate but similar bills that would provide at least $4.5 billion in emergency border funding. So perhaps some negotiation going on behind the scenes. In the meantime, Iranian leaders threatening to shoot down additional American military drones overnight. This as President Trump doubles down on his commitment to keep Iran from building nuclear weapons. Griff Jenkins is live for us in our nation's capital with more on the latest provocations. Good morning, Griff.
Good morning, Heather. Well, we began this Monday with yet more provocations coming out of Iran. The regime's naval chief, Rear Admiral Hossein Kanzani, threatening to shoot down more U.S. drones in comments carried on Iran's semi-official Tasnim news agency. Kanzani called last week's downing a, quote, firm response that can be repeated. The tough talk comes as the administration plans to impose even stronger sanctions on the Islamic Republic this week after the president made clear yesterday that he isn't looking for a fight, which would not end well for Iran.
I'm not looking for war, and if there is, it'll be obliteration like you've never seen before. But I'm not looking to do that. But you can't have a nuclear weapon. You want to talk good?
Meanwhile, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo landing in Saudi Arabia just hours ago for meetings with Saudi officials, including the king, on a mission to build an international coalition against a regime he calls the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism, making clear their spread of misinformation.
I think it's really important for everyone to understand that the Iranians are out sowing disinformation in lots of places. It is very likely that Iran will continue to present things that are fanciful, that are fraudulent, that are false.
And over the weekend, the Associated Press reported that the U.S. launched cyber attacks against Iranian military targets last week. The Iranians claim that the cyber attacks failed. The Pentagon is not confirming it. Heather, the president has at least one public event today, signing an executive order this afternoon. We'll see if he has more to say.
I have a feeling that he will, about a lot that happened over the weekend. Griff Jenkins live for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, some other stories we're following quickly for you. The witness with bombshell testimony we told you about in the war crimes case against former Navy SEAL Edward Gallagher is back on the stand today. And Gallagher is accused of murdering a teenage ISIS prisoner, a bomb maker in Iraq. But last week, under immunity, Special Operator First Class Corey Scott claimed that he actually killed the teen because he was going to die anyway. Prosecutors are expected to accuse Scott of lying, and the case could wrap up as early as tomorrow. Well, an attorney suggests the missing Connecticut mom may have staged her own disappearance. A lawyer for Jennifer Dulos, her estranged husband, Fotis, tells the New York Post that this isn't the first time that Dulos went missing, and that the mother of five once wrote a manuscript similar to Gone Girl. And if you don't know, that novel is about a woman who frames her husband for murder. Friends dispute the lawyer's claims, though. Fotis Dulos is facing charges in Jennifer's disappearance. Her body has never been found. Well, Pete Buttigieg, his town hall erupts into chaos. The mayor of South Bend, Indiana, facing his own community about a deadly police shooting.
Sure. So,
if everyone can just, we're going to allow him to speak if everyone can just calm down.
The Democratic presidential candidate says that he is asking the Justice Department to look into the shooting death of Eric Logan. Earlier this month, Logan was killed by Sergeant Ryan O'Neill, who was investigating car break-ins in the city. O'Neill's body cam was not on at the time. Well, former Pennsylvania Congressman Joe Sestak is the latest Democrat, another one to enter the race for the White House. But he has a little bit of a different message than his opponents. Listen.
The president is not the problem. He is the symptom of the problem people see, with a system that is not fair and accountable to the people.
Well, the retired three-star Navy admiral says that he delayed entering the race while his daughter battled brain cancer. Sestak joins a crowded field of 23 major candidates. Just keeps growing. Well, on a different note, the U.S. women's national team will take on Spain in the World Cup today. The teams are facing off in the win-or-go-home round of 16 at noon Eastern time on Fox. Now, if Team USA wins, they will face off against either France or Brazil in the quarterfinals. So go USA. Well, the time now is about 10 minutes after the top of the hour, and negotiations with North Korea seem to be stalled, or are they? Well, it turns out President Trump just sent a letter to Kim Jong-un. So can we expect a denuclearization deal soon? James Carafano from the Heritage Foundation joins us live with a look at what's really happening behind the scenes. And Elizabeth Warren has a new reparation proposal for gay couples. We'll explain.
We've done very massive sanctions. We're increasing the sanctions now. You can't have nuclear weapons. And if you want to talk about it, good. Otherwise, you can live in a shattered economy for a long time to come.
Well, President Trump to impose major sanctions on Iran today, hours after the regime issued a brand new threat overnight about shooting down more U.S. drones. So will sanctions be enough to end hostilities like this? Well, let's ask Vice President for Foreign Policy at the Heritage Foundation, James Carafano. James, thank you for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Good to be with you.
So I want to begin with the latest threat overnight from Iran, saying that they're going to shoot down more U.S. drones, this coming after the president delayed, although it's still on the table, attacking Iranian targets and saying that he's going to impose these sanctions. What do you think about their latest threat?
Well, these are opaque regimes. So when people say this is what they're doing, you really got to wonder if you got the right expert on. Look, these countries, what's going on is like an iceberg, and there's a lot beneath the surface. We've heard reports that maybe it was an independent IRGC. This is the lower level militia commander that was responsible for this, and the government didn't decide this. So I think, and Iran makes lots of threats. They're in a tough neighborhood. They have to do stuff to look tough. So I don't think we can take any of this at face value.
Okay, so that answers my question as to why they would be issuing more threats overnight when they don't even know what the sanctions are going to be. What could the additional sanctions on Iran be? What's left to sanction?
Oh, well, there's always things to sanction because every time we put sanctions in place, Iran looks for ways to get around sanctions, so that creates new opportunities. I think the sanctions are more of a kind, just like most of the back and forth between the United States and Iran has been more of a kind. So I don't really see signs of serious escalation. Even when you saw the Iranians shoot down a U.S. surveillance drone, a Global Hawk, the U.S. response to that was not to ratchet up. It was to kind of keep things at where they are. So I really do so far see signs from both sides that they're at a level of confrontation that they're happy with, and I think we may stay there for a while.
What about Iran's threats to increase their nuclear activity? Because the bottom line for President Trump is he does not want Iran to have nuclear weapons.
Well, on the one hand, I think by doing that, the Iranians are kind of making the U.S. case why the Iran deal was so inadequate. Essentially, any day they want to, Iran can just pick up where they left off. That's not a good thing. On the other hand, the Iranian activities are still below the threshold. Their publicly known activities are below the threshold that indicate that they're racing towards a nuclear program. So again, it's kind of we're in activities of a kind. We aren't really climbing up the escalation ladder.
Yeah. Separately, though, reportedly President Trump did approve a cyber strike Thursday night to disable some Iranian computer systems. So we'll have to follow up on that as well. But I want to switch gears now and talk about North Korea. Kim Jong-un receiving this letter from President Trump, North Korea describing it as having excellent content as these denuclearization negotiations appear to be stalled. But does this show that they are not?
Well, again, I'm not really sure. I think there is similarities between Iran and North Korea, and that in both cases they have to wonder, why should I deal with Trump? I don't know if he's going to be back after 2020, and let's wait and see that. So in the Iranians, it's, let's be grumpy until 2020. With the North Koreans, it seems, let's just string these negotiations out. On the other hand, if the North Koreans believe Trump is coming back, it makes sense for them to press ahead with a deal now, right? I think I think Trump would still make a deal after 2020, but I think North Korea, the sooner they make a deal, the stronger the deal is that they're going to be able to get. So it kind of makes sense that they might move forward, but then again, not knowing if Trump's going to be around, they might just be stringing us out.
Yeah, so perhaps other leaders should be a little more cognizant in this country what they say about President Trump publicly and how they support his different efforts. And no doubt, no doubt North Korea watching what's happening with Iran.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can tell when you can tell people's analysis by just looking at the Chiron and who they are, it shows you that they're just spouting their partisan talking points. They're not really doing analysis. We had a bucket load of that this weekend. People Monday morning quarterback, and it was like they hadn't even watched the game on Sunday. So, I mean, I just dismiss all this commentary.
Yeah, and that's not doing the country any good. James Carafano, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Have a great day.
You too.
Well, the time now is about 19 minutes after the top of the hour, and another fan hit with a foul ball. So what happened? And should more be done to make sure that fans are safe? And 2 years after a horrific high wire accident, triumph for the Flying Wallendas, the amazing moment that the brother and sister duo crossed Times Square on a wire with no net. Welcome back to Fox and Friends First. Rideshare company Lyft is assisting police after a college student seemingly disappears. Mackenzie Lewick was last seen on Monday after ordering a Lyft from Salt Lake City Airport. The police say that she texted her family when she landed, but then went silent.
For her not to reach out to me, Snapchat, Instagram, anything is very unlike her, very uncommon. She's usually in touch with me almost every day.
Well, Lewick's driver has been in contact with police reportedly. Lyft says that her ride ended at the destination that she entered. And some scary moments at the Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. A foul ball striking a fan in the head. Watch.
The 1-2 comes home and Bellinger rifles it foul. Just beyond the protective netting.
Pretty good advertisement for more netting.
And you see the reaction of the players. A woman was rushed to the hospital for precautionary test after being struck in the face. Her status is unclear. 2 teams announced plans to extend protective netting this season after several high-profile injuries. A woman died of head trauma after being struck by a foul ball in Los Angeles last summer. And the Flying Wallendas make a major comeback in Times Square. Daredevils Nick and Leanna walking 25 stories between 2 New York City skyscrapers without a safety net.
I'm going to do this. What do you think, New York City? What do you think, world? I love you.
I love you. I got this. Thank you, Lord.
I'm up. Praise God. You're amazing.
Yeah, the crowd totally amazed. The duo started from opposite ends of the 1,300-foot wire and crossed each other in the middle. This was Leanna's big comeback 2 years ago. You may remember she broke nearly every bone in her face while attempting an 8-person pyramid. Wow, you see that happen there. But successful this time around. The time now is about 25 minutes after the top of the hour, and mass deportations on hold. The president giving Democrats one last chance to fix the border crisis. So will they? Our political panel on deck to debate it. Welcome back. Half past the top of the hour. Look at our top headlines for you this morning, starting with the Fox News alert. A Missouri officer shot and killed after just 3 months on the job. Officials say Michael Langsdorf was responding to a person trying to cash a bad check when he was gunned down. The suspect not yet identified. Langsdorf, who had 17 years of prior experience on the force, leaves behind a fiancé and 2 children. Iranian leaders threatening overnight to shoot down additional American military drones. Now, this comes just hours before the White House is set to impose new economic sanctions on the rogue regime. And today, President Trump is expected to issue an executive order to make health care costs more transparent. The plan reportedly aimed at forcing insurers to reveal if they are giving hospitals discounts. Advocates say this will allow people to shop around for lower-priced care, but opponents argue that it could drive costs up. Well, President Trump challenging Democrats to strike a deal within the next 2 weeks to end the border crisis.
Where is the money? You know what? The Democrats are holding up the humanitarian aid. If the Democrats would change the asylum laws and the loopholes, which they refuse to do because they think it's good politics, everything would be solved immediately. But they refuse to do it.
So will Democrats hammer out a deal or just continue to stall and allow mass deportations to begin? Here to debate is Jenna Ellis, Trump 2020 Advisory Board member, and Mustafa Tamiz, former consultant at the Department of Homeland Security. Thank you both for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Heather.
Thank you. So I'll begin with you, Jenna. The president has put this on hold. Nancy Pelosi requested it. There are also some reports that some details came out or leaked out, and therefore he had to delay it. Do you think that this additional time will serve to actually accomplish some sort of compromise between Democrats and Republicans?
You know, I would really hope so, but Democrats have just continued to be obstructionists and used every last turn over the last 2.5 years to not do anything on behalf of the American people, but simply score cheap political points. President Trump has been the one to make every effort to work hard on behalf of the American people, and he's consistently affirmed country over party. And the Democrats really don't seem that interested. And, you know, President Trump tweeted yesterday, I want to give the Democrats every last chance and opportunity in order to actually affect policy change here. And so, I mean, when we look at the fact that Mexico is even on board with this, they're helping the United States, and yet even our own congressmen and women who are simply on the other side of the aisle, they're not getting on board with this. I think that that's a terrible, just a terrible option that they're looking at that, and I don't see that that's going to change in the next 2.5 weeks.
Let's take a look at what Nancy Pelosi did have to tweet, and then Mustafa, I will get you to respond to it. Here's what she tweeted. She tweeted, Mr. President, delay is welcome. Time is needed for comprehensive immigration reform. Families belong together. Your response. Mustafa?
Well, look, I mean, President Trump, President Trump used to say alternative facts, and pretty soon you've got alternative reality. You know, there needs to be comprehensive immigration reform. The president has not made any effort towards it. Out of the 3 years he's been in office, 2 years, Republican controlled the House, the Senate, and the presidency, couldn't fund the wall, couldn't make the border more secure. It seems like the president is incredibly ineffective at his job, and he turns around and blames the minority party that only controls one chamber. The president needs to start leading on this and many other issues rather than just be complainer in chief rather than president in chief.
Well, he has definitely tried to work out some sort of compromise with Democrats. You cannot deny that over and over again. The wall is currently being built, and from what I understand,
that's just alternative facts. Those are repairs to a wall. Those are the repairs that were scheduled whether President Trump was there or not. We can't just because he repeats something over and over again doesn't make it true.
Mustafa,
the president seems to keep repeating alternative facts.
But just because you continue to object over and over doesn't make that true either. So, I mean, this is a president who has continued to reach across the aisle, and it's true. He's reached even over to the GOP in Congress when we controlled the majority of both houses. There should have been more immigration reform. I mean, Congress is to blame here, but right now the Democrats are the ones that are stalling, and they wouldn't get on board. And so that is a problem, and come 2020, that's going to continue to be a problem, that Democrats just aren't interested in working on behalf of the American people. They're only interested in politics.
Let's bring up a map of the cities where these raids were planned, and as we said, they're now delayed. These were 10 different cities: Atlanta, Baltimore, Chicago, Denver, Houston, Los Angeles, Miami, New Orleans, New York, and San Francisco. You know, Mustafa, this isn't the first time that this has happened. President Obama did this as well in Georgia, Texas, and North Carolina.
It always targeted people that had criminal record and tried to pull out anyone who was a danger to the community and society. This president is just going after random people.
Mustafa, that's not true. That's not true.
Look, that's just we can argue about this. The president says one thing and does something else.
This is a statement from Jay Johnson back when it happened, and he said specifically the focus of this weekend's operations were adults and their children who were apprehended after May 1st, 2014, crossing the southern border illegally.
Look, this president has created an executive order, people can look it up, that created the child separation. Then he created an executive order to say he's ending child separation. Neither were true. The president continues to use his alternative facts. He tweets things out during the day. He watches lots of cable news. And we end up repeating what he says as if it's a fact when
so
it's really
no response to what President Obama did when he did the same thing back in 2014. But I'll let you respond to this.
It isn't the same thing.
It was the same thing. I just read it to you. Jenna, to close it out, let's take a look at this. In 2018, 90% of illegal immigrants arrested by ICE had criminal convictions pending criminal charges. So you get the final word.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I think that this just shows how much President Trump has done on behalf of the country, even though, you know, the Flores agreement and there are so many other complications that are in place because Congress hasn't passed comprehensive immigration reform. President Trump is trying to do as much as he possibly can, staying within the constitutional margins, and I really wish that Democrats would understand how important border security is to every American in this country, and that's going to be a really huge issue come 2020.
All right, Jenna Mustafa, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Heather.
All right. Well, today, Bernie Sanders is expected to announce his policy to eliminate nearly $2 trillion of student debt. And the Democratic presidential candidate is bringing back an old campaign promise.
Tuition free. Free tuition. Tuition free.
Well, according to the Washington Post, Sanders' package includes making public universities, community colleges, and trade schools tuition-free. His solution for funding the plan? Taxing Wall Street. Well, first, Democrats were pushing for reparations for slavery, and now 2020 hopeful Elizabeth Warren wants to make them for gay couples. And the Massachusetts senator tweeting, our government owes them more than $50 million for the years of our discriminatory tax code left them out. We must right these wrongs. Warren's Refund Equality Act would allow gay married couples to amend their past tax returns, but only in states that recognize those unions before the Supreme Court overturned the Defense of Marriage Act in 2013. And those couples would reportedly be eligible for $57 million in refunds. Well, the time now is about 20 minutes until the top of the hour, and 30 dead horses, one Hall of Fame trainer banned, and countless questions. What is happening at the Santa Anita racetrack? A veterinarian joins us live with the investigation that he thinks should take place. Welcome back to Fox and Friends First. A tragic and deadly horse racing season shrouded in mystery. Now, at least 30 horses have now died at one racetrack, the Santa Anita racetrack. And one Hall of Fame trainer has now been banned from the stables after his connection with 4 of those horses. A California veterinarian, Dr. Oscar Chavez, joins me now to hopefully shed some light on this bizarre story. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Heather.
So I know that horses, let's first of all tell everyone at home that's not your specialty, but what do you think is going on here, and how would you begin this investigation?
Right. So I'm not involved in the investigation, but as a veterinarian, I can tell you a little bit of what might be going on. So horse racing is a sport like any other, and the athletes are the jockeys and the horses. And like in any other sport, the athletes sometimes get hurt. And the difference is that a horse can get injuries that aren't always treatable. And so what sometimes happens is euthanasia. Well, the number of deaths that occur this year are actually lower than what happened last year or the year before that. So really we're not in any excessive amount of deaths right now. However, when you compare the number of deaths at Santa Anita or in the U.S. compared to other countries, it is at a higher incidence in the U.S. and so that could warrant an investigation.
I mean, you have 30. You have 30 horses at one racetrack. That seems like a lot, and it seems like something is going on. And now you have this Hall of Fame trainer that's being banned.
Yeah, so what really needs to happen is that a team of epidemiologists, which are specialists that look into this, need to go and spend some time on the racetrack, and they really need to find out everything. They need to interview everybody. They need to turn over every leaf, and they really need to get to the bottom of it, because just focusing on one trainer or on one reason is probably not the way to go. It's probably multifactorial, and there's probably lessons to be learned here.
Well, here's what the racetrack has to say. They did issue a statement. In it, they said individuals who do not embrace the new rules and safety measures that put horse and rider safety above all else will have no place at any Stronach Group racetrack. Mr. Hollendorfer's, that is the trainer that we talked about, his record in recent months has been increasingly challenging. Mr. Hollendorfer is no longer welcome to stable, race, or train his horses at any of our facilities. And as we said, the deaths involve 4 of his horses. So what do you think about their statement?
Well, I think, again, they're focusing on one trainer, and instead of really investigating the issue in a broader way and coming up with potentially other reasons or other factors that may be causing this, there could be really important lessons to be learned. They could look into it and find out that inbreeding is causing that the bones of horses are becoming thinner, and that's leading to injury, for example. I'm not saying that's the cause, but that's something that they can look into.
Right.
So just focusing on a trainer or a scapegoat might not be the best way to go forward.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have to leave it right here, but they are doing some new rules, as their statement said, that allegedly will review the horses, their medical history, the training and racing history. So hopefully that will help. Dr. Chavez, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Heather.
All right. Have a good day. Well, the time now is about 15 minutes until the top of the hour. And imagine boarding a flight and dozing off, as so many of us do, only to wake up locked on a cold, dark plane. What the airline has to say for itself.
If you could have one do-over as president, what would it be?
Personnel.
And President Trump admits his biggest mistake so far, why he wishes he could get a do-over. Newly retired pizza shop owner is the latest tourist to die in the Dominican Republic. It's still happening. Vittorio Caruso's family says that he was rushed to the hospital in respiratory distress after drinking something at the Boca Chica Resort in Santo Domingo. James Carafano from the Heritage Foundation joins us live with a look at what's really happening behind the scenes. And Elizabeth Warren has, despite that, a State Department official says they have not seen an uptick in the number of U.S. citizen deaths reported. So we'll stay on top of that one for you. Listen to this. A panicked mother wakes up on an empty plane, alone and locked inside the pitch black cabin. Can you imagine? Well, the woman says that she fell asleep on a 90-minute Air Canada flight and no one woke her up. She details the ordeal in a Facebook post, writing, felt like a champ when I got the main door open. Now I'm facing a 40 to 50-foot drop. I hang out the door trying to get the attention of ground crew. When I see the luggage cart driving towards me, I'm literally dangling my legs out of the plane. Well, she eventually got someone's attention by using a flashlight that she actually found in the cockpit. Since her phone was dead through all this, she couldn't call anyone. The airline has apologized and they are investigating. How in the world does that happen? Well, the Supreme Court could rule on 12 major cases this week ahead of summer recess. Among the high-profile decisions expected, there's a lot. The citizenship question, amazing moment that the brother and sister duo of the Trump administration's plan to end the Obama-era DACA program. A gerrymandering case is also on the docket, and decisions could come down as soon as this Thursday. And support for President Trump is now forbidden from a Ravelry. That is a popular social media site, apparently, for knitters and crocheters. The company on Twitter writing, we are banning support of Donald Trump and his administration on Ravelry. We cannot provide a space that is inclusive Daredevil's Nick and Leanna walking 25 stories between 2 New York City skyscrapers users could be permanently banned from the platform for sharing any pro-Trump messages. Much more to come on that, I have a feeling. And talk about going from zero to heroes. More than 2,000 people in North Carolina winning the lottery after playing the number 0 4 times. Depending on how much they spend on a ticket, winners will walk away with either $5,000 or $2,500. What the airlines? 4 zeros. Well, the time now is about 10 minutes until the top of the hour. And Holocaust survivors, they're getting the last word on AOC's concentration camp comments. But the Congresswoman's fellow Democrats talking about the controversy is just a